Boker Tov lekulam. Erev Parshat Shemini. I wanted to speak about the great merit of the people who are davening at a time when there's no minyan. And what made me think of this is not only certain comments that I heard from people in the congregation, but also when looking at the Haftorah of the Parsha. So at the rounds it'd be a certain association, because in the Haftorah we read about David HaMelech's attempt to fulfill a long wish dream, and that is to build the temple of for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then God appeared to Natan, the prophet, and he told him that he's not allowed to do it, that Shlomo would be the one who ultimately would build the temple. So this was the association, a sort of a parallel that you had here, David HaMelech wanting to build a temple, a place of worship, the place of worship for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and being denied by Hashem. Hashem said, I don't want you to come and to build it. And the situation in which we find ourselves now, that people would want to go to the place of worship, they want to go and daven in a minyan, and for the obvious reasons that we find ourselves unable to daven in a minyan. So that was actually the parallel between what triggered off these thoughts of speaking about, as I say, the great merit of people who want to daven in a minyan and that they can't. So I'd like to start off with a famous Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara over there says that originally, if Rosh Hashanah fell on Shabbat, so then the halacha was that we would blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, even though it fell on Shabbat. But then afterwards there was a gzeirah, according to the Babli, there was a decree that we were concerned that since that the chiyuv, the obligation to hear the shofar and to blow the shofar, is something which is incumbent on every single individual, so and because the tkiyot and all the sounds of the shofar are rather complicated, so therefore the chachamim, the sages, were concerned that a person would take his shofar, he would take the shofar on Shabbat of Rosh Hashanah in a place where there's no eruv, and he'd go to an expert to teach him how to blow the notes of the shofar. So because of this reason, so the Chachamim made a gzeirah that they didn't want that Rosh Hashanah, which coincides with Shabbat, that it would cause a desecration of the Shabbat, because a person's not allowed to carry in a place where there's no eruv in a public thoroughfare. So therefore they said that if Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, so we don't blow the shofar. Now this is an unbelievable concept which many of the Rishonim and the Achronim go into. Now imagine, what are the statistics that that when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, there'll be one person who will be in a place where there's no eruv, and he'll now carry his shofar to the expert to teach him how to blow. What are the chances and statistics that such an occurrence would happen? Like 0.0001%. And yet we found that what the Chachamim did was that because of that slight possibility, so what they did was they stopped the blowing of the shofar, which is a mitzvah d'oraita. They allowed to do it because they are negating the mitzvah in a passive way, not in an active way. And all this, as we say, is because this very far-fetched scenario where Chilul Shabbat couldn't happen. And the question is, how did they do it? I mean, the Torah says that you're allowed to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And so what Chachamim did actually was they prevented hundreds and thousands, millions of people throughout the generations of having this chut, of hearing the shofar on Shabbat of Rosh Hashanah. And when one looks at the Gemara, in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, it says that the blowing of the shofar has an effect of bringing oneself and the Jewish people so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that it says if the person blowing and the people hearing it says if they are entering into the Holy of Holies, Kodesh Kodashim. That's why in parentheses the Gemara says that you cannot have a shofar which is made out of that comes from a horn of a cow, because the cow reminds us of the Cheta Egel, and you can't have something associated with it with the Cheta Egel entering or being present in the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies. So to get back to the point is how, because of some far-fetched case, did the Chachamim ban the blowing of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah of Shabbat. And Rameh Simcha Midvinsky passed away in about 1926. Rameh Simcha Midvinsk, he explains like this. He says, actually, this ban of the Chachamim, of the sages, serves as the greatest merit for the Jewish people on Rosh Hashanah. Because as Hashem sits now on judgment on Rosh Hashanah, which falls on Shabbat, and he says then, so to speak, figuratively, to his Beit Din Shemada, to his heavenly court, he says, just look at the Jewish people. The Jewish people, they were so concerned with this one possibility of 0.001% of people carrying a shofar on Rosh Hashanah, on Shabbat of Rosh Hashanah. They don't want to hurt, in inverted commas, me. They don't want to do something which will compromise my son, my will. And therefore what they do is that in order not to hurt me, so that what they do is they don't blow the shofar. And this is the greatest chut that the Jewish people have. When Hashem sees the concern that the inner concern of the Jewish people not to go against the will of Hashem. And I was thinking that this is actually the scenario in a way, the principle in the way which is happening over here. You know, people have, we can't go to minyan, but Hashem now looks at our hearts, looks at people's reaction, and I think that, I say it obviously tongue-in-cheek, that Hashem must be so pleased with the great zchuyot of the Jewish people that he sees how the Jewish people in this time are so desperate, and how much they long for and how much they miss being in a minyan. Someone phoned me the other day and he said to me, it's not a matter of saying Kaddish at the shul or not saying Kaddish in the shul. He says he so misses davening together with people in a minyan. And you can see that the Jewish people over here in these situations, instead of saying, oh, Baruch Hashem, I can sleep a little bit later, I can have a cup of coffee, don't have to go to the minyan, etc. You see that the whole of Am Yisrael, and the people who usually daven, that they resort to every single far-fetched kula, every flimsy leniency to make a sort of make-believe minyan of Zoom that everyone could daven together. And this is the great merit of the Jewish people. That just like in the case of Shabbat of Rosh Hashanah, that Hashem looks into the heart. Not that now that technically that the shofar is not being blown, but how much the Jewish people don't want to, in that case, offend Hashem. And over here, in this case, how the Jewish people, even though they can't technically go to shul, but how much they long and want to daven, to long for the place, to the time where they'll be able to have a minyan. People do sometimes clandestine minyanim. So with all the criticism of doing such a thing because of the whole situation, but one can lamed zchut on how much it reflects the great passion of people who found it impossible to get through the day without davening in a minyan with the rest of Klal Yisrael. So at this stage, one can stop over here the tape. For those who want to continue, I just want to bring another source from the story in the Tanakh, which will elaborate on this theme that I'm speaking about, that I'm actually speaking about something which the Ramchal in Dat Funot says. He says that sometimes at the time of crisis and pressure, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the pressure and the crisis in order to reveal what people's real emotions, thoughts, inner worlds are. Because when things are just routines, so then things are very misleading. People do things and it's not like clear why they're doing it. They do it because of habit. but at the time of crisis and pressure. So Hashem uses that to see what does a person really want, what is really going on in his heart. That's what the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin says, Rahmana libabai. This is according to the Ramchal. And that's what we're saying, there's no minyanim. And now the question is, how does a person deep down feel about it? He doesn't have to go to shul to say Kaddish. But is he now happy that he's now absolved? Or is he longing like so many people are? This is the great zchut. So as I said, one can stop over here. For those who want to continue, I wanted to elaborate on this yesod, on something that we learned in the Gemara Express about 2-3 years ago from the Gemara in Masechet Sotah. So the Gemara over there says that everything that Hashem does in this world is midah keneged midah. In other words, Hashem relates to us measure for measure. And this is, as I said many times in a sermon, very, very, very complicated, how to read Hashem's, the actions of midah keneged midah. But we don't know always how to do it, but that's basically the principle. So the Gemara over there says that Shimshon, that the judge Samson went after his eyes, he went after foreign women, and therefore, as a punishment, what Hashem did was that he took away his eyesight, as we all know. Now, the difficulty that the Rishonim that they have is the following psukim that are in the book of Judges, and I'll read it to you now. It comes from. It says in the book of Judges, chapter 14, and I read it to you in English. It says like this: Samson went down to Timnah, and in Timnah he saw a Philistine woman. When he returned, he told his father and mother, "I saw a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now take her for me as a wife." So his parents asked him, "Is there no girl from your family or from all my people that you wish to take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines?" But Samson answered his father, "Get her for me, for she is the right one for me." And then in verse number 4, Pasuk Arba, it says, his parents did not know that this was from God, for he sought a pretext against the Philistines at the time that the Philistines ruled Israel. In other words, what the Pasuk is saying is, Hashem orchestrated, it was all from God, that Shimshon would be involved with Philistine women, and all this would be in order to wreak revenge on the Philistines. He waged a type of guerrilla warfare, and by marrying Philistine women, so the Philistines didn't have to interpret his actions as being a representative of the Jewish people. They thought that it was a local feud that he had with the Philistines. After all, he's got a Philistine wife. So that's why he did it. So all this was a setup by Hashem. So having said that, the problem now is that how can the Gemara say that because Shimshon went after his eyes, therefore the Philistines took out his eyes? We just read now in the Psukim that all this matter of Shimshon following his eyes and marrying Philistine woman was all a setup from Hashem. It says it was all because of Hashem. Hashem orchestrated such a thing. And the answer is, so we learned in Masechet Sotah and Avodat David and other Chidushim, there's a Kobet Shiurim on that. We explained like this. It's true, it all was a setup from Hashem. But the question is, what was going on in Shimshon's mind and in his heart? Did he marry that Philistine woman solely because Hashem wanted him to do that, to go undercover? Or did he have 99%, that's what he wanted to do, but 1% was because he just was fond of Philistine women? See, then that's the problem. The problem is that sometimes we're not judged on what we do. Yeah, this is what Shimshon had to do. He had to actually marry a Philistine woman. The question is, what was going on in his heart? Was he doing it and thought, oh, now I've got the chance to be with Philistine woman? Or was he saying, oi gewalt, I have to do now Hashem's will, but I'll do it with passion, but I would never be with a Philistine woman, but that's what Hashem wants me to do, so I'll do it. And that's what I think is a great merit. To get back to the point, is that now, that during this time, when there's no minyanim, and everyone's phoning on how we can organize a minyan, how we can structure the minyan in such a way that we'll see each other from the balconies. How can we do it with Zoom, even though it's not 100%? Can we now, b'chol ofen, be considered to be a minyan? This is the great zchut that we see over here, that no doubt Hashem sees amongst Am Yisrael the great passion that Am Yisrael have to daven in a minyan and to have connection to Him. They should all have a Shabbat Shalom, and Be'ezat Hashem on Sunday, for those who are learning in the Gemara Express, we'll be starting off the Shiurim in Yitzhak Hashem Shuzum. So have a very good Shabbat.